I'm Wesleyan class of '81. My daughter is class of '15, and I'm the curator of the Alumni Show II, which is held in honor of the 40th anniversary of the CFA. What was I looking for? I was looking for the best art that I could find. Partly I wanted artists who worked in a broad range of media, because that's reflective of contemporary art.
I have deep love for whatever I'm working on then, but I'm not locked in a style or medium. I am not particular about medium or field. I take interest in physics or mathematics, so it doesn't really matter where the idea comes from. That is pretty Wesleyan.
I wanted artists who were across a number of generations or decades so that they actually represented the 40 years that the Center for the Arts has been in existence.
I believe that gems are primal, living, and seductive, and that they have an alter ego that can be brought out. An example of that is my Hope Diamond replica here, which has a very strong conceptual bent and intrigue to it.
So in these pieces right here, these three paintings that are along here, you'll see in each one of them there's a large circle. It's called an enzo in Japanese Zen painting. It was a practice where every day the meditation would be to look at the circle that you drew as a way of reflecting the state of your inner mind. It's something that I learned about while I was at Wesleyan, actually, and I'm painting that circle with pigment derived from a meteorite as a reflection of the movement of my own shoulder in relationship to, say, the orbit of the Earth.
I wouldn't say that the pop culture aspect is the part that interests me so much as like the girlhood and the depiction of girlhood. It's all found imagery. I don't really paint portraits of people that I know, so it tends to be a mix of famous people and non-famous people. The people in these paintings are all recognizable. It's Taylor Swift and Elle Fanning.
And finally, I was looking for art that was visually striking and also showed a great intelligence and an awareness about contemporary art today.
In my process, I paint from photos of minerals that I've taken, and I'm just generally interested in minerals first and foremost on a visual basis for the variety of color, texture, surface, how light interacts with them. And I'm also interested in minerals for a more scientific approach in terms of how they're formed, these extreme conditions that create them, and how conditions in my own life transform myself as a human.
I make art because I've got these sort of weird obsessive curiosities about the world and about specifically about the biology of our human bodies and the way that our human biology relates to the environment and the way that our environment then sort of takes its toll on our physiognomy and the other creatures that inhabit the planet.
The work I'm showing here today is an intimate peek into the world of bloggers, and I showcase that by looking at bloggers being highlighted by their computer or laptop screens and using that light source as a sort of metaphor as the tunnel that takes us from our offline worlds into the online world where we all get connected.
So this is called We Buy White Albums, and that's exactly what it is. I buy first pressing white albums from anyone that will bring them to me, and I have 893 copies right now, and they're arranged in these bins by serial number. Most of my work deals with rearranging existing cultural materials, so this collection is hopefully bringing a new meaning to these albums.
The piece that's on view here, Albedo Prospect, is made up of material that was shot in the high Arctic in Svalbard, which is an island archipelago off the top of Norway. I've been interested in the polar regions for a long time and have done a number of projects about them. You don't need to sort of have huge amounts of physical materials to make something work. You just need to be able to figure out what it is that you're interested in about the materials that you have and make that tangible to an audience.
One of the themes in the exhibition that interested me has to do with the tension between real and fake, or you could say with a kind of digital manipulation of reality. And you can see this in Stephanie Washburn's photographs, where she layers different objects, different familiar household objects, in front of projected imagery, or you also see that in Raphael Griswold's drawings and prints.
So my work comes out of traditional printmaking in that I'm engaged with the idea of an image and then how an image changes as you apply a mechanical or a conceptual process to the image.
And then you see a similar thing in Ben Wiener's paintings, which you can see behind me, these luscious paintings of paint.
I had a digital microscope positioned at my palette, and I was taking screen grabs of the blobs of paint on my palette as I painted. So I'm using the magnification as a way of removing the viewer from an ordinary perspective on the paint.
That was exciting in itself to discover all these exceptional artists, to learn about their work, and then to start bringing them together into this exhibition and thinking about the connections between their works.
Cross-pollination is really directed my process. I seek out non-artists and I seek out artists from other disciplines in order to better understand myself.
I actually wasn't an art major at Wesleyan, but I do consider Wesleyan where I started making art. I was a psychology major, but I actually did my thesis with the sculpture department.
And I have to attribute my growth as an artist and my cutter to Wesleyan opening my mind up to so many possibilities.
All these different surfaces and the medium of paint as paint, really falling in love with paint is what happened for me at Wesleyan.
And I, more than anything, learned the value of working very hard in a medium you don't understand in order to draw out what it is you think about the world and what you think about using a particular tool or a particular technique.
And so while I didn't receive any formal training at Wesleyan to become an artist, what I did receive formal training in is going back and looking at the history of ideas and the sources of ideas and trying to figure out how to use those sources as ways of making sense of my environment. My training here was really one about a practice of approaching ideas and approaching thought.
I've been asked whether there's anything about this exhibition that is identifiably Wesleyan, and I would say the answer is yes and no. No, in the sense that these artists are representative of the active currents of contemporary art, and so could have come from many different schools or backgrounds. But yes, in the sense that there's a level of intelligence and curiosity that I think is something that comes out of a Wesleyan education.